Hello, greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected. Good to see you all here. Sorry, I was trying to scarf down some breakfast before getting on the microphone. So my mouth is full of peanut butter, which is probably not a great way to start the show. But anyways, what's going on? Kamashari K, yeah, I went to go see some music this weekend. I went Saturday and Sunday to see some music. I saw they had a couple of free shows, which are my favorite kind of shows. Not that I'm opposed to paying for shows, but free shows are really fun because you just show up. It's very little hassle involved. And a lot of these are, both these shows I went to were kind of like, kind of small little neighborhood kind of get together gatherings. So it was kind of chill. I went and saw a performer named Baby Rose. I don't know if anybody of you are familiar with her. She's got a really interesting, unique voice. On Saturday night, and then yeah. Also, a friend of mine plays in her band, or has produced records for her and plays in her band and stuff. So it's kind of like a twofer. And then I saw a good friend of mine, DJ, yesterday in the park, and there was a local, kind of a long standing, kind of stalwart band called Boyo Bongo, which they do, like a mix of like Latin rock, soul kind of stuff. They're really good. Anyways, good to see you all here. Lots of people in the chats. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, and on X. So Victory Jin is reposting the show on X. Thanks, Victory. Appreciate it. All right. Let's get into it. Rose. Oh, Baby Rose. Baby, just Google Baby Rose or put Baby Rose into Spotify. Baby Rose is her performer name. Interesting, very interesting stuff. Really, really cool. Let's see. So this is you found, yeah, there you go. All right, cool. I think you might enjoy her stuff. It's kind of like soul kind of, but kind of folky a little bit sounding too. Got a definitely like a 60s, 70s kind of vibe to it. I like it. And she was a good performer. Really cool. I saw this, and I saw it on X, and then I was like, is this real? Because it's always good to go check to see if these stories are true and correct. But this is in Politico. So in a right-leaning outlet and a left-leaning outlet, I found this article, so lends it a little more credence. And I found it in several places. From Politico, researchers quietly planned a test to dim sunlight. They wanted to avoid scaring the public. It was very interesting. Hundreds of documents show how researchers failed to notify officials in California. So I take it these are not what we'll read on. I didn't have a lot of time to read this, so I'm kind of discovering things as I'm reading. Hundreds of documents show how researchers failed to notify officials in California about a test of technology to block the sun's rays. While they planned a much huger sequel. That's odd wording there for a magazine. Team of researchers in California drew notoriety last year with an aborted experiment on a retired aircraft carrier. I think actually this was a lot of people covered this last year. This isn't new news. This is a little bit of a rehashing of news. An aborted experiment on a retired aircraft carrier that sought to test a machine for creating clouds. Behind the scenes, they were planning a much larger and potentially riskier study of saltwater spraying equipment that could eventually be used to dim the sun's rays. A multi-million-dollar project aimed at producing clouds over a stretch of ocean larger than Puerto Rico. So, hello to the people. This is just quickly want to just say this is not like, oh, we were looking into doing these. This is called disclosure. This is called, we're planning on doing these things that we have already been doing. Creating clouds, you say. What did I say about contrails or chemtrails or whatever it is? What did I say? I said they are creating clouds to block the sun. The other chemtrail part and how it might be used to affect people's behavior or their health or all that. I mean, sure, I'm sure that's happening as well. I just don't know as much about that. I'm just, from what I can see with my bare eyeballs, it looks like they're just straight up creating clouds to block the sun whenever they feel like it. So that's not like, it shouldn't be a stretch for people to take on. But here they are saying, hey, we were going to create some clouds. So how about that? The details outlined in funding requests, emails, texts, and other records obtained by Politico's E&E News raise new questions about a secretive billionaire-backed initiative that oversaw last year's brief solar geoengineering experiment on the San Francisco Bay. This has also been happening, right? They had the Make Sunsets company in Mexico. I think recently Make Sunsets was also caught doing things on the continental U.S. or inside the states. They also offer a rare glimpse into the vast scope of research aimed at finding ways to counter the Earth's warming, work that has often occurred outside public view. Oh, you don't say. Such research is drawing increased interest at a time when efforts to address the root cause of climate change, burning fossil fuels, are facing setbacks in the U.S. and Europe. Of course they are. They're going to face setbacks because you can't power a civilization that was built on fossil fuels with something else. Suddenly, all of a sudden, with untested technologies or technologies that aren't scalable. But we read on. But the notion of human tinkering with the weather and climate has drawn a political backlash and generated conspiracy theories, adding to the challenges of mounting even small-scale tests. Last year's experiment, led by the University of Washington and intended to run for months, lasted about 20 minutes before being shut down by Alameda City officials who objected that nobody had told them about it beforehand. The initial test was only meant to be a prequel, Even before it began, the researchers were talking with donors and consultants about conducting a 3,900 square mile cloud creation test off the west coast of North America, Chile, or South Central Africa, according to more than 400 internal documents obtained by E&E News through an open records request to the University of Washington. At such scales, meaningful changes in clouds will be readily detectable from space, said a 2023 research plan from university's Marine Cloud Brightening Program. The massive experiment would have been contingent upon the successful completion of the thwarted pilot test on the carrier deck in Alameda, according to the plan. The records offer no indication of whether the research whatever this is, geoengineering, and hope to gain access to government ships and planes. Okay, so this is the part where this is perception management, because they're trying to make it seem like, well, it's the same rerun. Yes, Bella, that same Alameda. This is a rerun or a hashing of or reprising of the narrative that comes out of Harvard with David Keith, right? And what's the other guy's name? I don't remember. To the two guys at Harvard who are talking about possible studies into geoengineering. This is just perception management. This is disclosure. This is letting people know that more than likely there's stuff going on. Hey, we were running these tests, but we didn't tell anybody. Oopsie, right? But not a full disclosure of we've been doing this stuff like hardcore for at least 20 or 30 years, maybe longer, right? I mean, I'm just going from my memory of how long I've been seeing like the contrail production thing going on. I mean, I can remember it as far back as the 90s. Before that, I don't really. My memory's fuzzy anyways, but distinctly remember seeing that stuff. So that's going on like 30 years. The university and its partners, a solar geoengineering research advocacy group called Silver Lining, and the scientific, a little on the nose, right? Scientific nonprofit SRI International didn't respond to detailed questions about the status of the larger cloud experiment. But Silver Lining's executive director, Kelly Wanser, said in an email that the Marine Cloud Brightening Program aimed to fill gaps in the information needed to determine if the technologies are safe and effective. They don't care if they're safe and effective. They've been doing it for a really long time without your knowledge, and they don't care how you feel about it, or whether it's safe and effective, or whether it's been tested. They don't care. Why do I know this? Because you can see it happening with your own eyes. Jesus. It's fairly obvious. Anyways, they're just going to go on to spin this and talk about growing calls for regulation. Really? Team sought U.S. ships and planes for funding. That's hilarious, because they're straight up doing it on military planes like all day long. So, I mean, not right this second. I don't see anything happening right this second, but it happens. And it doesn't really take that many planes. You could literally get it done with, a couple of planes. It is not that involved. You can cover a really large area with a couple of planes. You don't need 1,000 jets. Steph C says the amount of these trails is insane. And I remember saying that I would never see them here in central New Jersey, at least not in flight, only after. Now they are everywhere, and I see the planes, and the planes are not flying higher as claimed. Exactly. Well, that's the other thing, it's like, if you don't want to know, or if you want to just, intentionally be ignorant about what's going on, one of the things they say is, well, the contrails are created way up high in the no, not these. These are lower, cloud level tropospheric. They're at a lower altitude. They're not, way up high where you can, what real contrails look like. There was a great video on X a couple weeks ago that I saw, and was a woman who had two planes going at the same time in the same direction. And one was a real contrail. It was way up higher, and it was making a real contrail, which is, the exhaust came out, left a little trail, and the trail dissipated. And underneath was another plane leaving a long lasting thing that turned into a cloud. And she's like, this difference is right there. This is the difference between a contrail and a, contrived, made up, whatever you want to call it, chemtrail, contrail, something. And so, when people try to explain these things away with the typical excuses, it just doesn't really hold a lot of water. It physically doesn't make a lot of sense. And but people just really like go hard on, hell, you're no way. They would never do that because I believe what the government tells me. Sorry. I don't know who that was that overtook my body there for a second, but it's called geoengineering. Yes, Delene, you're actually absolutely correct. Yeah, did you see that one, Denver? It was pretty great. She's like, here it is right here. Two planes doing two different things. But I think that it's so, I don't know, it's so obvious to so many people that most of the time I there's a thing about, I feel like there is effective brainwashing, propaganda brainwashing, right, that is capable of turning a good portion of the population's brains into mush on a particular subject. And then there's, I think there's also wisdom in the hive mind, I don't always defer to the hive mind, but there's wisdom in the hive mind, right? People can see there's like a common ability to see through some obvious bullshit. Case in point, going back to COVID, where there was a big portion of the population that was effectively propagandized to believe every kernel of information about COVID that came out. And then there was a large segment of the population that was like, nah, nope, you will not, nope. And one segment of that population was, for the most part, right. When more information was gathered, a large section of the propagandized section of the population became much more skeptical about what it was that they were being told was true or not true. And so um okay, let's keep going. Anyways, this is all very interesting. And with the mullet guy running around with the mullet cloud seeding guy, the rainmaker CEO, and like with this story and with the make sunsets story, they're doing a good job of kind of like letting the cat out of the bag without, they're trying to uh shoot the gap right between like oh yeah, we've been lying to you forever. So what they're trying to do is kind of slowly disclose that they are going, by first saying we're going to do these things. Oh, we're definitely working on these things. Oh, oopsie, we forgot to tell people we were working on these things. To eventually like, oh yeah, this has been going on like for a really long time. And they're trying to get over to the other side where nobody remembers, right? Because nobody has a historical memory anymore. Anything that happened beyond like 2 or 3 years ago is completely lost on people. They're like, what I don't remember that. So you just need to get through a couple of years of that before people just don't care anymore. Yes, Mr. Joe Dirt costume runner up. Yes. Every silver lining has a cloud. Indeed, Bella. Indeed. Oh, let's see. Kind of. Well, you said it. You said humidity. This is tomorrow's forecast. So if you're in these areas, you are. I don't know. How you guys doing? All the people. I know there's quite a few East Coast and Midwest people watching the show. Are you guys suffering through the heat? Because I know it's been really hot. Strangely, in California, we have had an extremely mild summer so far, and we're almost in August. So we still have, historically and typically, August and September are very, very warm in Southern California, and we can have a very cool run up to summer, but it's already the end of July, and we haven't really seen any like super crazy heat to speak of, but knock on wood. So we have been spared over here on the West Coast a lot of the griminess that people have been experiencing on the East Coast. Gene says it's hotter than the MFR in Central Florida. Yeah. Oh God, Central Florida. I'm sweating just thinking about it. I'm breaking out. Can you see it? I'm like breaking out in a sweat thinking about it. I'm sorry. So yeah, this is a forecast for tomorrow. Monday may be the most humid day of summer in the Corn Belt with max dew points near 90 degrees. Corn sweat will pump extra moisture into a likely derecho in South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa overnight. My God. Be careful out there, guys. On Sunday, the dew points reached 88 degrees in Boone and Council Bluffs, Iowa. I have driven through Council Bluffs, Iowa several times. Crazy. So yeah, careful. It looks like very, very high in the southeast into Florida. Florida's extreme. Missouri, Illinois, Iowa extreme. all the way through here, looking pretty warm. Scott says it's hot in Missouri, but the nighttime temperatures are insane. Oh shit. Might just turn into corn syrup. Creative Experiment says Oregon has crazy temperature swings right now. July 70s one week, 90s the next. Yeah, that's not good. We should finish Ministry of the Future sometime. That's a great idea. I was just actually thinking about that. Thanks for bringing that up, Bella. I was just thinking about that. And I don't have the book anymore because it's incinerated. But I was thinking about getting another copy so we could finish the book. There's also another book I want to read, so I might just get back into that. Maybe on the weekends. Maybe I'll do some chapter reading on the weekends. All right, man, it's getting late. Real quick. This is this news has been going around a bunch. This man Julian Brown, who invented. Remember we talked about this. I'm not really like crazy about the idea of turning plastic back into gasoline, but because you turn gasoline into plastic and then you turn plastic back into gasoline and then burn it. I'm not like a fan of any of that, honestly. It just doesn't sound like a really great idea. But all of that aside, this man who was working on turning plastic back into gasoline and doing it for zero energy costs, he was working on doing it. Yeah, you're right. Kamashori Kate, that is the sound of logic right there. I like that. Anyways, he's been missing. This guy who was working on a cheap and I guess the idea is that if you're recycling the things that we're throwing into the oceans, that could be a good thing. Anyways, prolific independent young scientist and inventor Julian Brown, who made his own free energy fuel station from plastic waste, is being reported as missing by his followers and supporters. He hasn't been seen for 2 weeks. He claimed he was being followed by black vehicles and watched by black helicopters just 2 weeks ago. His supporters fear the elites have possibly kidnapped this man to prevent him from providing free energy to everyone who would create a detrimental blow to oil and energy empires. Well, yeah, we know that they do stuff like that. Right. I saw that Creative Experiments. Yes. Oh, really? Oh, shoot. That's interesting, Grapentine. An aside, remember, I don't know, during COVID, and there was a stretch where there was a lot of mass shootings that were supposedly driven by white supremacy. And I'm not I'm just saying this was the theory behind a lot of these mass shootings, that they were driven by white supremacy. But remember, there was one, I think, in Wisconsin. Was it Wisconsin? I think it was like Wisconsin, where this guy went and shot up a bunch of people. Anyways, interestingly, one of the people that he shot was a guy who had figured out how to make his car run on water. So people were like, wait a minute. So you guys set up this whole story in order to kind of waste this guy that, you know, just happened to be in this parking lot. Or, you know, I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but something like he was one of the casualties. This guy who had like had filed a patent for a water powered engine. He was a retired cop. Oh yes, that's right. Was he the security guard at the store? Is that what it was? I think that's what it was. Anyways, you know they do this stuff, and it's interesting. You want to listen to this?
I know that I'm not going to live long. And that's why I put every day, every hour, every minute into building, into growing. Why am I out here working on this plastic into fuel reactor I've been working on for 5 years, since I was 17? Why am I out here in 100-degree weather? Why am I out here despite being falsely accused and reported to the EPA and the IRS? Why am I out here despite weird black helicopters that turn off their radar transponder circling me 6 times at night? Why am I out here sleeping in my van, crazy humidity, mosquitoes, gnats flying in, and yet I still do it? Why am I out here despite having to drive 4 hours every time I want to work on this machine? Because when I was doing it in my parents' backyard, I blew myself up and I had to go to the hospital for 2nd-degree burn surgery. I do this because this is my mission that I've assigned myself to. I do this because I do not fear death. I do not fear suffering or uncomfortability. You know what I fear? I fear allowing an idea of something that may not even exist or happen have enough control over your entire life to where you're not even really living your life.
I mean, I hope, and pray that he is found, that he pops up somewhere. I fear the worst. Yeah, Grapentine, you're absolutely, you're on it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Chris Cornell. I was just talking about Chris Cornell the other day. Very weird that I know he had some struggles with addiction, but he was working on that documentary, right? And it's just very weird. Anthony Bourdain, right? Chester Bennington, Avicii. Yep. Shad McDaniel says, I knew a guy who was working on whose car ran on hydrogen that the law was always hassling. I'm sure. Didn't we play that Y-Files? Didn't I play a while back? Didn't I play the Y-Files video about the people that disappeared that were working on? Pretty sure I did last year. I think we spent a whole episode playing the Y-Files and kind of doing a watch along about people who worked on like 0-point energy ideas and free energy ideas, or like things that also might align with like Tesla's ideas. That was interesting and scary too, because if you want to try and find your way around the system, it's hard. They make it difficult to do that, Okay. It's getting late. Let's see. Just trying to see where I'm going to go next. One more thing regarding the climate. Antarctica melting has increased significantly in the last few years. Up until 2016, sea ice in Antarctica seemed relatively stable. Then everything started to change. At first, the decline was mostly in line with climate models, but suddenly in 2023, there was an enormous drop. Well, doesn't that line up with when there was an enormous rise in global temperature? So, it's not that surprising, but indeed, smash the like button. Bella, I'm going to go get them today. I could not go on Saturday, so I'm going right after the show. I'm going to go to the P.O. box and go get those peppers. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'll let you know when I get them. For sure. Yeah, Saturday turned into a bit of a clusterfoozle. Anyways, this melting or ice drop has been labeled a 5 sigma event. If you know what that means or what that signifies. Oh, they did. Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I just it was good I didn't go on Saturday. So, all right. Thanks, man. Thanks for letting me know. All right. Gaza is just a stain on humanity. Gaza Humanitarian Foundation head boasts success as Palestinians starve. What we're doing has actually been unbelievably effective, said the chair of the Israeli-backed and U.S.-run aid group. This is a terrible picture. Gaza health officials reported that at least 20 Palestinians died of malnutrition in the Strip's hospitals over the past 2 days. The American official in charge of delivering food amid Israel's restriction of aid declared his program a success. We've been filling a massive gap in a way that's direct to the people, that prioritizes the security of the situation in this very complex environment. Oh, it's very complex. Despite what you may read in the press and the criticism that you hear from the United Nations and other institutions, what we're doing has actually been unbelievably effective at starving an entire population, I think is what they mean. As Palestinians continue to starve to death in Gaza, Moore, an evangelical minister and former religious advisor to the Trump administration, has spent the past several weeks defending his organization's work. He's appeared on mainstream TV news outlets and interviews with pro-Israel podcasts. He and his foundation have messaged in lockstep with the Israeli government, as both cast blame on Hamas officials in the international community for a famine of Israel's creation. As of this week, Israeli troops have shot and killed more than 1,000 people trying to get food, 766 near GHF aid sites, and 288 near aid convoys run by the United Nations and other organizations. If you can't starve them, just shoot them. So we have ways, the Israelis said. Moore repeatedly blamed the UN for choosing politics over the needs of these people. During Tuesday's event, he claimed the UN failed to deliver thousands upon thousands of pallets of aid already inside Gaza. The Israeli government has made the same argument in recent weeks, releasing video and photos of supposedly dormant stockpiles in it to advance a narrative that the UN-led system is broken. he went on to say the false and exaggerated statistics from the UN seems to come directly from Hamas-controlled Gaza Health Ministry. Yeah. It's shocking to imagine that's being said with a straight face. Oh, they're saying Moore said Tuesday that Hamas would use aid to recruit fighters and would sell the aid into the black market to make money. It's shocking to imagine that's being said with a straight face, said Mara Cronenfield, executive director of UNRWA USA, referring to Moore's statements. This is a narrative that does not at all match the reality. It is a very cynical and dark narrative given how bad the reality is. Okay. Meanwhile, Ben Gvir says Prime Minister Netanyahu is morally bankrupt for allowing aid into Gaza. Demands the complete starvation of Palestinians. So, what do you think is closer to the truth? This is not a redeemable society.
פשיטת רגל מוסרית שבזמן שחטופים שלנו נמצאים בעזה, ראש ממשלתנו מעביר סיוע הומניטרי לעזה. אני חושב שבשלב הזה מה שהיה צריך להעביר לעזה זה דבר אחד. פצצות, לפוצץ, לכבוש, לעודד הגירה ולנצח את המלחמה. פשיטת רגל מוסרית שבזמן שחטופים שלנו...
Nice guy. Really solid human, this guy. Guys, if you like the show, if you want to support the show, please remember that you can support the show in the description box of whatever platform you're watching on, and or Linktree on X. There are lots of links where you can support the show via the usual suspects of like Venmo, PayPal, CashApp, Zelle. Did somebody said that Zelle was going away? Is that true? I heard that in passing. Is that real? Oh, they're just getting rid of the Zelle app. Okay. So maybe that was a misunderstanding of what this person was saying. Okay. So they're not getting rid of Zelle. So you can use Zelle, Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-Fi, Patreon, or Substack. Yeah, Bella, that's about right. This is wild. Columbia University has been forced to pay $21 million to Jewish employees, some of the most privileged people in the world, for the psychological pain they suffered from anti-genocide protests. The identity of the recipients will be secret, so the public can't scrutinize their claims. Wow. Columbia University will pay $21 million in a class settlement fund to resolve alleged civil rights violations against Columbia employees occurring on its campus. Huh. Yeah, apparently that's much worse than people starving to death. It's wild. Oh, Gregory, I think there's like some kind of a reward for being the top chatter. Yeah, Scott, I'm telling you, it's wild, and it might be about to get wilder. So buckle up. All right, we're gonna go through Trump being a weirdo and just spinning out and looking like a crazed, kind of looks like a crazed leprechaun a little bit. Trump finally addresses the inappropriate thing Epstein did for him to never speak with him again. This is why, apparently, Trump never spoke to him again, is because he stole people who worked for him. Okay. Okay. He's floundering around like a fish, blubbering fish on a deck. Sorry that you couldn't see that. My apologies. Here he is saying that he never had the privilege of going to Epstein Island. And people are like, what?
That was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. Yeah.
Okay. Strange way to put it. He never had the privilege. He also said he's not going to talk to Putin anymore, and he's now planning to impose massive new sanctions on Russia earlier than expected because there's no reason to wait. Rubio has said imposing these sanctions would effectively mean the end of U.S. diplomacy regarding the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
Do you think he's been lying to you about his intentions in Ukraine?
Well, I don't want to use the word lying. All I know is we'd have a good talk. And it seemed on, let's say, 3 occasions, it seemed that we were going to have a ceasefire and maybe peace, and you divide it up and you do whatever you have to do, that obviously to get to the end. And all of a sudden, missiles are flying into Kiev and other places. And I say, what's that all about? I spoke to him 3-4 hours ago, and it looked like we were on our way. And then I'd say, forget it, and I'm not going to talk anymore. You know, this has happened on too many occasions, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
So, have you had any other training channels conversations with the Russians reiterating this?
In what?
Reiterating this new pressure and deadline.
You know, we're going to have a, yeah, I mean, well, you're the press. I'm reiterating it to you. Yeah, I'd say 10 to 12 days. I'll announce it probably tonight or tomorrow. But there's no reason to wait. If you know what the answer is going to be, why wait? And it would be sanctions and maybe tariffs, secondary tariffs. You know what a secondary tariff is. And look, the Russian, I don't want to do that to Russia. I love the Russian people. They're great people. I don't want to do that to Russia. But this thing, they're losing a lot of Russians. They've lost 1 million Russians. And that's the, sons. That's the sons and daughters of Russian families. They leave the house, they go, bye mom, bye dad, and then they get blown away. And Ukrainian too. Look at Ukraine. It's a disaster what's happened there. But it continues to go on. As you know, we made a deal where the European Union is essentially involved, but it's NATO, and we're supplying weapons to NATO. NATO's now paying.
We're supplying weapons to NATO. Creative says economy collapse next week, if not this week. Okay, well, put your running shoes on, guys. Denver says it's possible this is a humiliation ritual and a distraction to avert eyes from radical legislation every other day. That's true. That is also happening. So there's plenty happening for sure that we're not privy or paying attention to. It's hard to keep up. I mean, that's, we're doing our best on this channel to kind of keep up with everything that's going on. But it's, there's no way to like touch every single subject that's important in an important way. I mean, you just have to kind of like, gather the things that you can focus on for the day. It's near impossible to keep up with all of it. Let's see. I think we're almost, one more. Look at the ridiculousness of Trump, what he has to say.
I'm going to say any more words until my executive producer puts on the banner next to me. That was bat poop crazy. Just not gonna. That was crazy. I took lots of notes.
Denver, thank you. I appreciate
this.
That.
Is in no particular order. Windmills are killing us. 7 million people died in Rwanda, but I ended that. The Rwanda genocide ended in 1994. Energy needs no subsidy. America subsidizes energy to a great degree. Windmills are, Windmills are killing us. They're the most expensive form of energy. He's going to have a deal with the EU in an hour. He's not in a good mood. He said that. He said there's not going to be a deal really with the EU. He said very specifically, he said, mostly I'm just going to charge tariffs. It's not really a deal per se. People are just going to pay tariffs. He went on for a little while about a ballroom and how they don't have a nice ballroom in the White House because they've never had a developer in charge of the White House. But now he just built a beautiful ballroom and he could just drop it into the White House. And that's going to be fantastic. Wow. We've got a lot of steel and aluminum plants being built in the United States. We've got a lot of automotive plants being built in the United States. I can't even read my own writing. Asked about people starving in Gaza. He seems very upset that no one has thanked him for the food that they provided. He said that Iran is being very nasty with its mouth. He did say he gave two pieces of news. He said that the United States is going to do more for Gaza. And that he talked to Benjamin Netanyahu. Those are the only two pieces of news that I was able to glean from that whole thing. He also said we have a lot of con jobs going on, which I think might be a piece of truth as well, but I don't know what he was actually referring to. This is
okay. That's all I'm going to play of that. Thanks, Lou. Got to thank Lou for his monthly contribution on PayPal. Appreciate that, man. If you're out there listening. We're still collapsed from the last bioweapon. Indeed. Yes. And creative, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like that. Just to give it a little extra whammy, right? Like bring back another like pandemic or mini pandemic or something like that. And then couple it with some economic collapse. I'm still, LA is starting to look like a ghost town, Bella. Like I just had that. It wasn't too bad this I was out and about this weekend, but I have to say, like in my daily travels around the city right now, there are a lot of businesses, there are a lot of empty shops, a lot of empty businesses and formerly bustling areas of town. in my hometown, going down the main street of the city, it is, again, more empty shops like every single day. And it starts to look more deserted and more forlorn. And it's like, what is happening here? Well, we know what's happening. So the underpinnings are rotting. The underpinnings of society are rotting away, and there's, only the surface level still kind of looks okay. But when that starts to evaporate, then people are gonna, people are gonna. People are already feeling it. You can kind of get the sense that people are really struggling. Pretty much everywhere you look, or people are on edge. Even if they're not struggling, they're on edge about what the future is going to look like. So, there's people selling their homes and moving out of the country. There's, people who have some money but are afraid to invest it in the economy, might want to pull out. You see a lot of wealthy individuals, harbingers, if you will, of like what's going on with the economy, selling their stocks, converting stocks and other assets into cash or whatever. You see the wealthy making moves for a collapse while everybody else is like, what the heck is going on? All right, guys. Well, that about does it for me. I'm going to wrap the show up now, and I will be back tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. You're right. Denver, you're right. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and beware the bear.